across the Sierras to Mono Lake. Our son, Benjamin, is working there for the Mono Lake Committee, helping on the lake. And it's a beautiful, wonderful setting. I mean, just amazing, very special kind of place. And you saw all sorts of different things there. He took us on a tour of a volcano. It was not active, but still we were inside it. It was interesting, down to the shore. The shore is, and much of the lake is covered with flies. Now these aren't flies that bother people, but there are tens of thousands. And we saw this gull. It just runs so that all the flies jump up in the air, and then it just opens its mouth. I thought about eating myself that way, line up all the food. And we experienced really a miracle there. As Ben was giving us the tour, he took us to the lake shore and around, and at one point he reached over and into the water and he pulled out a rock and turned it over, and there was fly larvae on the rock. And our own Joyce had told us that the Native Americans actually ate fly larvae as part of their meals, and Ben picked up one and ate it and insisted that we do the same thing. And the miracle is when he lived at home, Gene couldn't get him to eat beets because they were too gross. But he's grown a lot and learned a lot. And Mono Lake actually has other miracles to tell us about. Before I get to that, though, I want to go back to following up on Angie's talk, in effect, on power and unity for this month. And for me to talk about power and unity and what it means to us, I have to put it into perspective with science, partially. But, to me, to say, how does this affect me, I start at the large, if you will, and work down. And so, where am I in the larger picture and in the universe? Which comes to, why is the universe here? And that's a big place to start, but I'm going to take us through that quickly. I mean, these are debates that have gone on for centuries, but I'll do it in 2 or 3 minutes. You guys can handle this. You're smart. So it comes down to, is the universe here by chance or by purpose, in effect? And there is, of course, a scientific theory that the universe is here just by chance. It's just the way the physics comes together, a universe is created. But there's also a new thought theory, which Angie has talked about some, that the universe is here, in effect, by chance. Because divine spirit is just creativity. It's a force of creation, and therefore it's just a natural outgrowth of that creativity that this universe is here. Not chosen, not designed, but just the creativity, or just the physics. And when you look at that, if that's the way it is, we come to sort of existentialism. If you're familiar with it, it basically says there is no purpose, but we give our own life's purpose. If we don't choose that, if we don't do that, there is no purpose to the universe. And so to look at that, is this a universe of purpose, of design, of meaning, or is it randomly meaningless and we can just choose to have purpose or not? I look at Occam's razor. If you're familiar with that, a principle of science that says if there's 2 explanations or more, you choose the simplest one that meets all of the facts. So like, we could say that if you throw a ball in the air, it comes down because of a force of gravity. Or we could say if you throw a ball in the air, it comes down because there's millions of little invisible fairies that run up and grab it and bring it down. Now these fairies are invisible, so you can't prove they're not there. But which is the most straightforward, simplest explanation, because otherwise you have to come up with why are the fairies there, and what are they doing, and why are they growing up and grabbing things and bringing them down, and it becomes a very complicated theory. Now let's look at the universe. What's the information that we have to deal with to tell us, is it here by design or is it here randomly? And a part of that is what's referred to as the fine-tuning of the universe. The strong force holds the protons and neutrons together. If it was off by 2%, if it was 2% stronger, matter wouldn't form in the way that we know it, and therefore life as we know it could not exist. If gravity was minutely different in its strength, when the universe first expanded, if it was just slightly stronger, it would have crashed back in on itself before stars and planets could have formed. If it was just a little bit weaker, you would have had such expansion that stars and planets wouldn't form. Carbon. Carbon is the basis of life as we know it. All of the heavier elements, like carbon, are made inside stars. But it didn't work. They figured out the mathematics. You need 2 helium molecules to come together, and they wouldn't do it. Until they studied it a little more closely, and they said, inside stars, the energy that's generated cause the helium atoms to vibrate at a different level that they normally do, just enough so that they can come together for a fraction of a second and bind to form carbon. Without that very, very, very precise amount of energy and vibration, carbon would never form, and life as we know it would not exist. They figured that there's at least 25 parameters about the universe that if they were only minutely different, we could not have the kind of universe we have that has life as we would know it to exist. So is that random chance? I mean, when you look around you, this picture, yes, that could be like it is strictly by chance. If you just threw paint there, there is some probability, maybe 1 in a billion, that it would land in such a way to create that picture. But which is the better answer? That happened randomly or that happened on purpose? And it's the same with the universe. To me, this is just logical thought. Is this precise fine-tuning of this universe that allows us to be here random chance, random creativity? Is it just like a chemical reaction? Or is it so finely tuned that it could only be here on purpose with a meaning? And I say it only makes sense to say, to have this precision, that there's intelligence behind it. And if there's intelligence, there's a purpose. If this is made by intelligence, there is a design to it, a meaningfulness to it. Now then, if there's a meaningfulness and there's a purpose, what is it? Well, let me tell you something. The mind of God is a little bit complicated. If somebody tells you they truly understand the consciousness of the divine spirit, they're fooling you or fooling themselves, and probably both. Because it would not only have to be 1 trillion times more advanced than ours, but 1 trillion times different. 1 trillion, trillion, trillion times more sophisticated. To come up with this, to come up with the laws of quantum theory and relativity theory and make it all fit together.